Hey everyone, I'm Ruth. Welcome back to another video. In this real-time tutorial, I'll be showing you how to add highlights to your graphite drawing to create a super realistic effect. So let's get right into the video. I have already drawn this eye with graphite, but without any highlights in it, as you can see. And here I have my Tombow Mono Zero eraser. It's the round one with a very tiny eraser. And I use this to apply my first highlights. I softly erase some of the graphite in the iris. You can also use the white of the paper, so leave the highlights white. But I find it difficult sometimes for the tiniest highlights, and also the graphite gets smudged easily, and then you can also use this tiny eraser to lift up the highlights again. So I go in several times with this Mono Zero eraser to make the highlights really pop. And I use a brush to wipe away the dust from the eraser. And now I add a tiny little highlight to the pupil as well. And as you can see, it already gives a really realistic effect by adding these highlights. And also a highlight on the tear dot. And here, the white of the eye, just lifting off some of the graphite with my eraser, and in the iris again, more highlights. I'm actually drawing with my eraser here, as you can see, drawing in some lines and wiping off the dust with the brush. So here we have the Derwent battery operated eraser. It's electric. And it works really nice to get bright highlights, but it's somewhat bigger, the eraser, so it's not possible to achieve really tiny highlights unless you sharpen it with a knife to get a fine point. Then you can pull up really nice tiny highlights. And here, as you can see, I use it to make dots in the skin. So I create really nice skin texture with it. And also in the pupil, some highlight. But I just tip on the paper with the eraser. And as you can see, that gives really tiny dots, really bright white highlights. And then I use my mechanical pencil to create really realistic skin texture with these highlights. First I use my paper stump to blend it into the skin a little bit, because they are too bright at this point, the highlights. So I blend it a little bit in, and then I go in with my mechanical pencil and draw some shadow underneath the highlights, and that creates really realistic skin texture. And if you guys would like me to make a tutorial about creating skin texture, please let me know in the comments and I will make one for you. So here I'm drawing in a wrinkle, just a tiny darker line. And some more shadow underneath the dots. And here I use my putty eraser or my kneaded eraser to create some soft highlights, just dabbing onto the graphite. And as you can see, that creates really nice, smooth and soft highlights. And I make a sharper point on the kneaded eraser, and I dab onto the graphite to create some more dots, but these dots are not so bright, they're really soft. I also used the Kneaded eraser to create some highlight above the line, as you can see that I have done here, and that creates realistic looking wrinkle. Just dabbing onto the paper, onto the graphite, to pull up some of the graphite. Now I go in again with my Mono 0 eraser, drawing in some more white, actually, with the eraser, using it as a pencil. It really works very well, as you can see here. So now I go in with my mechanical pencil again to create some definition, define the highlights by adding some more shadow around it. And it's all about values, as you can see, so really bright highlights define the shadows, and the other way around as well. The shadows define the highlights. I'm drawing some more wrinkles, defining them some more. So here I go in with my rectangular Tombow Mono 0 eraser to define my highlights a little more. I use the tip of the eraser to do so. Just going over all of the highlights once more, so they become really bright. And use my brush again to wipe off the dust. Just repeating the process again of drawing with my eraser. And then going in with my mechanical pencil again to define the highlights even more. So if you're happy with how this is looking, this is the final result. But if you think that the highlights should be even brighter, then you can use a Uni Posca marker. It's an acrylic marker and it has a very fine point to brighten the highlights even more, and you just use it to go over all of the highlights that we have just created. And as you can see, that makes them really pop even more. It's really opaque white. So again, going over all of the highlights to create that really shiny, bright highlights. But as I said before, of course you can skip this step if you think that the highlights were bright enough without it. I'm really careful with this marker, because if you use too much, then it will lie on top of the drawing, and I don't like that. So I'm just adding tiny little bits at a time until I'm happy with the result. Now I'm going in once more with my Kneaded eraser to pull up some more highlight. And as you can see, it's really soft and gives the drawing a really realistic look. And I just keep doing this until I'm happy with the result. Just take your time, go slow, because you can always add more highlights if you think that the drawing needs it. Just take a good look at your drawing, if it needs some more shadow, some more highlights, and just keep going until you're happy with the result. Just take your time and enjoy the drawing process. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell to get informed when a new video comes out. You can leave a comment down below and don't forget to share my video with all your friends. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you. Bye! If you want to see more of my artwork and learn how to paint and draw yourself, you can head over to my Patreon page. I'll put the link down in the description box. Here you'll find a lot of in-depth tutorials, real-time videos, reference photos to print out for your own artwork, tips and tricks videos, art materials, and a lot more. So I hope to meet you there.